Have Minister of Finance, Mr. Charles Sousa, with us today. And as I was telling earlier in the show, that we are going to talk to him regarding his new announcement regarding the auto insurance policy of the um, government of Ontario. So, Minister, welcome to Radio Parvasi.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being on your show.
And it has been, third or fourth time we are talking about auto insurance. And whenever we are talking, always I am bringing to your notice, Premier's notice, that auto insurance is one of the most important issues for the people in the 905 area, in the Peel region, or many other areas where new immigrants are settling down, particularly. And it's a very, very, important issue for them. But I'm glad today you have made some very important announcement. Will you share with us?
Absolutely. So we've done some things already to reduce rates, but not near enough. Excuse me.
Yeah.
There's been reductions up to 10%. It's now at 6.6%
Okay.
since 2013. We need to get this down and improved. So while we've done dispute resolutions and while we've gone after tow trucks and storage fees and while we've allowed for winter tires to help reduce rates, it is still a problem. And it's a problem in my area of Mississauga and Brampton and Scarborough. So we asked David Marshall to do a full review, and he found systemic fraud everywhere. So our goal is to focus on care, not cash, protect consumers, but go after the fraud. And he also said there's no way to lower costs further unless you go after systemic changes to the system. So we're cracking down. We're going after this. And we need to do this in order to get rid of almost $1.6 billion in fraud. And insurance companies have already stated that there's a tremendous amount of fraud. By reducing some of these costs, we'll be able to reduce premiums sustained, not at one point in time, but over time. We got to get rid of predatory activity, the practices that go on, the dueling of assessment that occur. And if insurance companies are aware that there's fraud, then I am imploring those insurance companies not to settle bogus claims. So there are 7 steps that we've taken today to go after this. 1, we are making sure that there's a standard treatment plan for common injuries like sprains and whiplashes so that victims get cared for immediately. 2, they're going to be examined independently, not beholden to an insurance company, not beholden to the legal provider. They're going to not provide ghost writing assessments. They'll be neutral, they'll be reliable, and they'll be credible. 3, we're going to put together a serious fraud office, one that will have prosecution and enforcement ability to limit those losses by victims, to go after those that are of stolen assets by the victims and the consumers. We know, and I'm sure all those listening are aware of the degree of fraud that has existed in the past. So we are going to go after everybody: insurers, adjusters, appraisers, the legals, the medical profession, everybody that abuses the system and takes advantage of people. That's going to stop. 4, we're going after postal codes. You know, if you live in Brampton and across the street you're living in Caledon, all of a sudden your postal rates and your insurance rates are dramatically different.
Yeah.
So we've asked them to look at that. We already have, actually. I've been working with Fisco to review this issue. They're going to come back to me within a month in terms of what to do next to ensure that practice doesn't happen, and at the same time, not to burden the redistribution of those costs to other regions of the province. We have to be mindful. So I have to go after the underlying problem, the underlying cost, to fix the postal code issue. The 5th one is we're implementing a financial service regulator like the Ontario Securities Commission's part of government, outside of government, arm's length, so that they have teeth, so that they can go after the bad apples, so that they can go after the insurance companies to reduce their rates and be responsive to consumers, because their mandate is to ensure that consumers are protected. And that's a big part of the things, and that I've already started to develop. And I put that in the fall economic bill, and if passed, that'll enable us to move very quickly on these issues. A 6th issue is contingency fees. The Law Society has now started to address the issues because we brought it forward. But we need people who are consumers and are victims to know ahead of time how much it's going to cost and what's the cut my lawyer is going to take from me, so that you're not duped, right? The people deserve full knowledge of what's happening and what's occurring. And the last piece is a panel. We have a panel to make sure all of this stuff gets done. And they'll be working with drivers, insurers, health providers, and legal issues so that nobody falls off the rails. But the important part here, those incentives for people to jack up rates through excessive use of cash, that's going to be removed. You first do the job, you show us that you've done it, then you get paid, and that stops the scammers that are in the system taking advantage of people.
Okay, and Minister, when it can be implemented, when you think it can be implemented?
Well, once the bill passes, which is going to happen within weeks for the changes I've made to the Insurance Act, and starting within the new year, all of these implementations start to occur. The Serious Fraud Office will be coming on stream in the spring. The standard agreements of common injuries will also be made available within the spring. All of this stuff is happening as we speak.
And Minister, when you think that this benefit will be started traveling to the consumers, to drivers?
Well, that's important. Right now, there are about 100 companies that compete in auto. I, as a mystery shopper, went after them to determine how I can improve my rates. There are a number of companies that are already reducing rates by over 15%. But we need everybody to do better. And I got to make sure that insurance companies stop paying for bogus claims to go after these issues. And that practice will provide major reductions in fees over a sustained period of time, not at any one point in time.
Okay. Minister, generally it's said that these insurance companies are autonomous bodies. They don't come under the purview of the government of Ontario. How you will ensure that they listen to you and they implement it?
Because I've now instituted a new financial services regulatory authority. It used to be FISCO. I've making this regulatory authority with teeth. They will have the power to regulate the insurance companies and implement some of the changes. And more importantly, the fraud office are going to make everybody accountable to ensure that the savings gets passed on to the consumers. By going after fraud, by prosecuting and enforcing the law to stop the criminal activity that occurs, that'll help us in the long run.
Okay, Minister, generally it has been seen that the insurance companies decrease the benefits, but that the actual benefit don't travel to the consumers, to the drivers. So we can ensure that then they don't do this again.
Well, the insurance companies to date have provided some relief in certain areas, but in other areas the rates have not been enjoyed. And that's a problem. So I'm forcing through the new regulator to ensure that they pass on those savings to the consumers, especially those that live in Mississauga, Brampton, and Scarborough, where rates are just too high. And the good drivers, the ones who have never had a problem, who've never had a ticket, who've never had an accident, are paying for everybody else, who then can't even get insurance. That's unacceptable.
Okay, Minister.
So we're taking actions now. We're making transformative changes now so that we can pass on those savings to people.
Okay, and you think that at an average, a consumer will get around 10% relief? This is what you're saying?
I'm not going to make speculate on what those reductions will be. I can tell you this: there's $1.6 billion in abuse of the system. That amount should be reinvested for the consumers, and that will dramatically decrease their costs while maintaining generous benefits that Ontario has.
Okay, Minister, it's a really great announcement, and you are again confirming to us that people who have good driving record, good clean record, should not be punished, should not be paying for others, and it's a really great announcement, great decision. I hope you implement it as early as possible.
And I will do my best to do so. And you're right, people shouldn't be punished, and that's what's happening right now.
Okay, Minister, thanks a lot. It's always great to talk to you.
Thank you. All the best.
Thank you very much.